What's up, everyone? We will be starting momentarily, just getting set up here. Hey, what's up, KSJ? Welcome. You found us. Got a little bit of goofy stuff going on today with technical issues, but welcome. I'm streaming directly through YouTube today, so I'm trying to figure out how to do all the YouTube stuff. Cool. Stream will be starting momentarily. Everyone, we will be rocking and rolling shortly. Get your questions ready. We will be doing some Elastic stuff, ESQL, doing a resume review, and we will be announcing the winners, not winners, but we'll be welcoming the new interns starting, they'll be starting beginning of next month. Kishay, are you an Elastic person or are you a Splunk person? Very cool. Yeah, I'm hoping we expand our Elastic stack with some cool tools. I think we can build some fun stuff with it. That'd be pretty cool to do as a project for the stream. Kind of automate some of the stuff, maybe work on some detection engineering, automate like playbook creation type stuff. Got about 3 minutes until we start up. So until then, you just got to watch me and maybe listen to me talk with KSJ a bit. So if you're joining us for this stream, we got about a minute to go. I definitely encourage you to get your Elastic Stack open up so you can follow along and learn some KSQL. Yeah, sound it out. Yeah. That is the best way to learn some of this stuff is actually put your hands on it. KSJ, yeah, it's going pretty good, man. I enjoy our ESQL, not KSQL, ESQL. Sheesh. It's going pretty good. Definitely enjoy doing all the hacking again and experimenting and playing with new stuff. Always enjoy playing with new stuff. Almost time, people. Almost time. Say hello in chat if you are just joining us. We are about to begin. Guess what? It is time to begin. All right, let me go ahead and stop this autoplay. And let's bag it up. All right, welcome everyone to the InfosecWizard live stream. Yeah, KSJ is here. Happy face to see. Is AJ going to be joining today? He's probably doing yoga on a yogi retreat somewhere at KSJ. No, he's probably busy playing catch up from work. He just got back from vacation, so I'm sure he's got a lot of catching up to do. So sorry, but you're stuck with me. But what is this live stream about for anyone that's new? Well, we try to do activities that help SOC analysts become more hireable. Today, that is understanding a new type of query syntax that is very similar to Splunk, but skills you can actually take onto the job and better and help you get hired if you're not on the job. So that's what we do here. So let's talk a little bit about some other stuff. So what are we going to do today? We're going to welcome the new members. We'll see a slide with all the new folks that have joined us. We had an internship application process going on, so we're going to have a big reveal today, and we're going to reach out to the folks who we will be welcoming on for, I think it's going to be a 2-month stint. This is a trial run to figure out, will it work? Can we do some good stuff? Can we use it to help make the community a better place for our community members and help folks get more jobs, help them learn more, all that cool stuff. The big thing of this episode is going to be ESQL cheat sheet. So we're going to be able to cheat sheet live. If you've ever been in a sim, you know, there's lots of functionality, lots of things you can do that most people actually don't know about. And a cheat sheet helps you when maybe you use a function rarely here or there. So we're going to build one that'll help you do what you need to do to be a better stock analyst. So we're going to do that live. And then somewhere along the way, we're going to do a resume review for a new member of our community. So it's going to be a pretty jam-packed stream today. Here are our new members. Welcome, Monkey, Osvaldo. That's who we'll be doing our resume review for. iFlow, Sal, me, and maybe Senior SNR, Senior Erickson. Welcome to the community. Feel free if you hadn't engaged yet. We got a couple of great rooms, or what do they call them, channels. Got a couple of great channels that you can ask questions to help you get a boost to your career, help you land that job, whatever you need to do. Really, that's what we're there for. Our interns, yeah, we are going to be saying big congrats. Maybe we'll do that first. Where should we do the interns? Maybe somewhere in the middle, right? We should make it like some kind of big reveal. I don't know, maybe. Yes, Keshe asked ESQL, which is not the same as KQL. That is correct. It's different. It's very, very similar to what you would expect in Splunk. Very similar. And Splunk is my preferred sim of choice. Yeah, so we'll figure out where we'll sprinkle in a grand reveal. ESQL, that was the question that just came up. Yeah, it's a fun language. It's kind of like, if you've ever used Elastic, you may have like clicked stuff and added it to the filter. Well, this is a language where you can, it's very similar to working in like the command line, where you can add pipes and manipulate the data along the way as it runs your query, so you can format it better, do stuff so that it help you get to the data you need to get to and format it quickly. That's the whole point. So instead of having to look through all these logs all the time, we can do it with a query, and it will help us pretty quickly. And a lot of times what you'll do is you'll have like a templated query. So like, okay, I need to, I don't know, trace a process tree or something like that. And then you can have like the parent process ID, child process ID, you know, do it for you, or whatever. You can build them for a lot of use cases, and maybe we'll get a couple of those out of the way today. But yeah, the big thing is you're going to leave with an idea of how to use ESQL, and we're going to publish a cheat sheet on the InfosecWizard Git repo so you can pull it down from there. But we're going to build a lot of it live today. Are we done yet? Have we got everything? Resume review? Yep, we're already going to do that. Yeah, and just to put this out, I don't really say it that much on here, but yeah, if the community has helped you out, definitely let other people know so they can come and join in on the fun and get that little nudge they need to be successful in landing that first job, or successful in landing that next job if they're already in IT or cybersecurity. Everything is free here. So that's a pretty big differentiator for a lot of communities. This one has just a ton of free stuff, and we are legitimately here to help. Where can you find us? All these cool places: Instagram, Facebook, GitHub. Jot down this Git repo, and that's where all the stuff we develop goes. So out there. What's up, E. Davila? Welcome, welcome, welcome. And turn on those notifications if you haven't already. Cool. I think that's enough of that business. Let's dive in. Let me pull up and share my screen. Let me organize my life really quick. Say hello if you're just joining us. I see we got a couple of people that hadn't said hello in chat yet. Do so. Say hi. Hi, Mike. I want to learn this stuff today. All right. Let's share the screen. All right, cool. Everyone should be seeing a screen. So this is what KQL looks like. This is like the default example when you click it. So up here at the top, we have where we can switch between the two. So this is what everyone is looking for. And I think Kish said, hey, KQL is different than ESQL. Yeah, absolutely. So if you remember before, you can query this by doing something like this. And then you add one of these thingamabobs here. And then you add whatever event ID it is, and you hit enter. And you can string these together by saying and adding something else in here, right? And it kind of helps you pre-fill that in. And we can say threes. I have AJCTF stuff up here, so that's why it's up here. It's just easy. Everyone should be pretty familiar with it. Is there 4608? No. I was going to do another event ID, but yeah, you can string them along like this. Let's see how many event IDs we have actually over here. So over here on the left pane is where we can look at the different fields. I was just trying to grab 2 event IDs. There should be a 3. Maybe we did it wrong. But anyways, we won't spend too much time here because we want to get into good stuff. Anyways, so it's pretty similar, but we can't really string stuff along really well like we can with ESQL. ESQL, look, we can kind of start building out things and see this pipe thing. That is pretty common in what you would see in the command line. So it's basically saying, hey, take this chunk of data. Now I want to do something to it. And then I want to do something to the result of that, and then something to the result of that. And that's kind of how it works. It manipulates the data as it flows through this pipe. So think about it just like water trickling to a pipe. So, you know, you have that main trunk that goes into the house, and then it splits up to all the different rooms that have water. That's kind of what happens to it. We filter it along the way. We do stuff. We turn it into ice, maybe. We turn it into water in the fridge. Whatever it is. We take it through the hot water heater, whatever. Brennell said, did Splunk copy Elastic or vice versa? I imagine there's a lot of copying going back and forth. Someone developed something cool and very useful. They're like, oh, we should add that functionality to ours. So I imagine that's happened. Just kind of like the difference between Linux and Windows. There are quite a bit of differences, but I imagine along the way, they've been taking things from each other to better the operating system. So yeah, good question. Hello, Psycherpel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so let's look at, let's just look at the help. Let's see what we have here. And let's see if it gives us a good idea. So this is what I'm talking about, where we have different commands and we can use the pipe. Again, very, very similar to Splunk. And this here is basically our view. So if we looked in the other one, we could select, well, what type of view, what data, set of data, what bucket of data do we want to look at? That's what this from is. So it's saying, I want you in total to look at this data. Now let's do stuff with it. And now we can do some fun stuff with it, where we can say, so this says a limit. It's very similar to a database where it's just giving us 10 results here. So let's do something different. Let's say where event ID equals, probably not equals, no, maybe it is equal. Let's see. Wow. All right, so this just shows us all the event IDs that equal 1. So pretty similar. Like if you've ever done database work, like, oh, this is very similar to like MySQL, MSS SQL, or MS SQL, all those different things. Yeah. So the only thing different, the reason I like this style of SIM interaction, same with Splunk, is that it's very programmatic oriented. So if you're used to doing things inside, like writing code, it feels very familiar where it's all data manipulation. You're just playing with the data as it flows through your program. So it makes sense, right? If you're new to it. And I will say, when I first started out in the SOC and I was teaching SIMs, Splunk was the most difficult one by far to teach because it was very programmatic oriented. And a lot of people don't have those mental muscles developed quite yet. And then the other ones that were very, I would say, intuitive and UI focused, where you just click add filters, it was a lot easier to understand because, again, it was intuitive. Where this is, I have to imagine what's occurring to the data as it flows through my query. So that's kind of the hard part that we have to deal with here. All right, so let's see what else we can do with this stuff. Let's see. So we can do an eval where we can do some funky stuff here. We can dissect. So a lot of interesting things here. What I do want to pick up is I need to figure out what I put in the show notes for this first. I got to remember what I said we were going to do. And then we'll do that. Let's see. Let me pull that up. But feel free to ask any questions or say, hey, can we try this? I want to see what that looks like. And we can definitely check that out. Just trying to get to the description. There it is. All right, so let's start with count, because that is the first thing that we're going to do is count. So let's see if we can find that in here. So a lot of stuff, just like everything else in cybersecurity in the world, there's usually help files in here where it'll tell you how to use specific stuff. But if not, we can just hop on a link and take it somewhere. Yes. So Brian Randall asked, does easier to understand, does that not mean more effective? I would say flexibility. It's more flexible because you can do this type of stuff and you can apply some funky functions to it and do additional things that you can't necessarily do with your normal filters. So flexibility, but with everything, just like with open source software, the more flexible it is, the more difficult it is typically to understand and expand as a user. So there is kind of that, distinction there. Yes, it's flexible, but it can be a little bit more difficult to utilize as a user. But once you get it, you get it. You know what I mean? So let's see if count functions. Here we go. And I haven't actually dug into Elastic documentation very much. So I'm kind of looking at it with you for the first time. Sadly, I didn't have time to prep. I've been doing wedding stuff all week and all last week. But yeah, I mean, Splunk has really good documentation. This actually looks pretty good, where they'll give you examples of how to utilize the function. This is not how to utilize it. This is wrong. So let's actually just do KSQL count. Now I probably just called it weird. No, ESQL. I keep calling it KSQL. It's ESQL. Sheesh. Elastic, not Kibana. Here we go. So what we want to see are examples. And like you want to see it kind of implemented like this. So it's kind of easier to figure out. And it'll help us implement it to some degree. So we can also check this out and see. And the reason why, I could have did a bunch here to, I guess, prepare or whatever, but I do like to show everyone a little bit of the realism here. And this is what you're going to have to do. There are so many functions, so many capabilities. If you don't know how to look and then understand the documentation, you're going to have a really tough time. So I'd rather teach everyone in the community to fish for themselves. And you're going to do a lot better. You're going to see yourself grow a lot faster than folks who don't take the time, to do just that. And some of these things can just seem really, really hard to understand. And that's okay. It's probably going to look Greek starting out, but over time, you'll start recognizing it, and it's going to be a lot easier to read. So like this is just talking about the types of things it can count. So it can only work on very specific things. So we have stats count, and we can count a specific field. So let's give that a go. Let's just, I mean, this is kind of silly, but that's okay. We'll say computer. Oops, I keep hitting enter, but it should be like enter doesn't click it. So basically all this does is it says, take everything that has an event ID, and then I want you to count all the computers that are in there. Now, the question in my mind is it counting unique computers or not? Stats count usually does unique. Usually. At least in Splunk, stats count did. And we can ask AI too. Does stats count unique? Because there is a difference, right? We can count all the available logs, or we can just count the unique variations of it. And that is, there is a big difference there. Words mean things. I said that last one. No, it doesn't count unique values. It counts the total number of entries in that field. So there's 88 entries, including duplicates. So that's not unique. Great, that's really good information, because there's another function here that's count distinct that we can use to give us a distinct count. Okay, great. So let's try that out. Distinct. There we go. And I hit enter again. Man, this is killing me. All right, so 88 before, 46 now. So there's 46 unique computer values. So these are unique values within the computer field, right? So let's actually pull this out, and let's duplicate this tab. Yeah, and again, feel free to ask questions here, or if you want to explore down a different route, let's do that too. This is totally an us thing here. We are doing this together, and I'd like to orient it more towards the viewers, what y'all would like to see. Yeah, you know, Cyberpelt says it seems very similar to Sentinel. Yeah, all of them are really very similar. And that's why I say too, like everyone's like, oh, I should learn Splunk, I should learn Elastic, I should learn Sentinel, like all of them. No, you don't. Spend your time getting really good at one, because those skills will transfer. And you're going to get way better than you are today, like way better at one than you would be at three separate ones, right? You're splitting a lot of your time learning all these nuances. And there's really no point, because I think we looked it up the other week, and Splunk only had like 30% of the market, 35% of the market, something like that last year. So chances are whatever you studied isn't going to exist in the environment you're going to be in. Very low probability. So you're better off just really understanding one really well and learning the methodology of how to be a SOC analyst. So, you know, I look at it as, don't burn too much time spreading your time, like your study time, across a bunch of things that are very similar. Just stick to one unless there's a really good reason to do so. In this case, just pick one and do it, which is why we don't do Splunk, we don't do Sentinel as well as Elastic. We just do Elastic because I'm trying to encourage everyone to just stick to one and stay there. Unless you have a different one in your environment when you get hired, then by all means go all in on that one, because that's how you're going to get raises and be able to move from team to team. All that stuff is being good at the one where you work at. Let's see. Seeing it's very like waffles versus pancake. Everyone knows pancakes are better. I will let y'all have the great debate between waffles and pancakes in chat. How about crepes? You didn't put crepes in there. They're just really, really tiny pancakes, right? Okay, so hopefully everyone understands what this is. I do want to show you the field really quick. I need to stop hitting enter. It drives me nuts. And believe it or not, this is very similar to CrowdStrike as well, their advanced search feature. But I do want to show you the values here. So over here, this is the field that we're counting. So there's a bunch of probably blank ones here. We also see, what do we do? Computers? For some reason, it's not showing up over here, which is kind of odd. Where's it going? I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I don't know what is up. I guess oh, here it is. It's showing it up in this thing. See, I don't know. I don't even know what's going on here. But yeah, so you can see all the different ones populating here. There's probably a better way to see it, better way to extrapolate this. But I'm also positive we'll be playing with that a little bit differently. Okay, so let's see what else is on the list here for us to study. Any questions about that one? So we did count distinct. So let's do values. Values is the next one. So let's say, tell me, oh, what's popping up? Tell me about the values function and give me an example. So the big thing, if you hadn't figured it out now, it's the functions are one thing, right? We have to know what types of data, what values need to be fed into the functions, just like programming languages. And then we have to understand what fields are available to operate on. Those are the big things. Let's see. Values is a function. Here's eval, values, MV sort values by first name. So it says values function is an aggregation function that returns unique deduplicated values as a multi-value field. So instead of counting unique entries like count distinct, values actually collects and returns a literal list of unique values found within a group set of data. So pools are raw, creates a temporary column. I wonder if we can just run values by itself. Don't know. Let's try it. Values. It might not let us. So it doesn't like that. So we can see that there's a little bit of an issue here. It's highlighted, which means there's an error. And we can see that there's a mismatch in syntax. So this is what I mean by that syntax is just different, is that we just have to understand exactly what types of values it takes and how it's operating on it. And that's all it is it's pretty trivial to do. Once you learn one, everything kind of translates pretty well. I would Osvaldo, I would certainly recommend Elastic as a good one for sure. It's one that we'll be using in our course for sure. Yeah, I say why not? I mean, Splunk, I wouldn't have recommended probably 4 months ago because I didn't think it was easily accessible for free for people. But Sean, one of my guests I had on, showed us where you could download a Docker image. But yeah, totally fine just to get that one and just get really good at learning the search. So why don't we try something like this? Let's see what this does. So we're going to modify stuff, obviously. And we're going to do computer. Computer. And it doesn't seem to like this either. Expecting. So it may be expecting a specific type of data coming into it. So it doesn't really like the way that is done. Let's see. And if we don't know, something else fun we could do is we could just take this and say, first of all, I don't recommend doing this in production environment, but we're in this environment, so who cares? Give me a good example of using value with this set of info. I'm just throwing it in there because I'm being lazy. Yeah, the thing I dislike about, like, I think Keshe says he thinks there are some dedicated Splunk labs. Yeah, there's some great ones, but you run out of room, and I don't think they go deep enough for you. So I would prefer folks work with a sim that they can put into their lab and do some stuff with, and do it easily. Like, I don't want you to have to spend hours setting up and maintaining the lab. I want it to be pretty easy. We have a pretty easy video for this one. And then, of course, Docker container for Splunk. But I want you to be able to go beyond those Splunk labs. But yeah, you could do a lot of this stuff in there, I guess. But yeah, I want you to go beyond with whatever you do. Okay, so stats unique users. So this will allow us to create a field of unique users, it looks like. And then it'll sort, we'll sort it by computer. Interesting. Okay, let's give that a go and play with it. It's looking at a different log source there, so we'll get rid of that. Let's take a gander at this. So this is kind of fun, right? So we're only looking at event ID ones, right? And then so we are creating a new value called unique users. So these are unique users grouped by and organized by computer. So it's kind of interesting. I wish this allowed us to see the original log. Splunk will allow you to do that, and CrowdStrike allows you to do that as well, where you can see where this shows up, because it's kind of odd that there's 2 users in the event 1. I would expect there to only be 1, and then there's 4 down here, which is kind of interesting. But I think this is also, and we're sorted by, okay, so these are all the logs are pooled. So there should be 46 systems here. Yeah, okay, so this is each user. So this isn't per log, sorry. I was mistaken. So this is each user that was seen in an event 1, so that's process creation log on each system. So that is actually a pretty useful query there for folks. So that is a pretty fun one there. The oddities here for folks are going to be that this is a new column. So we can actually do funky stuff on this column now. This has been created. So we could say, I was trying to think, we could do a count unique users now. Should be able to if it's like Splunk. God, enter every time. Couldn't parse, check your query again. Why doesn't it like that? count unique users, expecting change point, enrich, dissect, limit. Oh, stats count. Jeez. Oops. Stats count. Sorry. And there's 72 lines here, but if we did count distinct, every time, there we go. Likes to add stuff on you. And we should get a different value, 45. So the point I'm making here is that this produced a whole different column, a different body of values that we can now manipulate. So when you see this, it's assigned, think of it like a variable in coding. So we have this unique users variable, and now we can do stuff to it. That's all I wanted to show here. But again, just walking through this, and I'll look at comments in a second. This is the data set. This is our very first kind of filter we're doing where we're saying, hey, we only want to look at event code once. Now we want to pull all the unique users and we want to do it by computer. So we actually have two columns at this point. We have the unique users column, and we have the computer column. And then on the second one, now we're just taking a looking or getting account of all the unique users here. So a lot there, but just showing you how to play with the data here. Let's see. eDevelop says, what does it mean to labs exact? How does this thing keep popping up? Sheesh, go away. Like having our own lab, or how do we know we are really going beyond? That's a really good question. How do you know if you're really going beyond? So one of the things you really want to get to the point of is where you're using it like a new body part, right? If I say, hey, eDevelop, I want you to produce a list of all the users that have logged into the domain controller over the last week. I want them a unique list. I don't care about the times or anything. I just want a unique list of all those users. Can you do that? Or are you going to be fumbling around with that for like an hour to produce that? So what I'm getting at is you should be able to be able to answer most common questions that you would need to answer in a SOC, so like in an investigation, fairly quickly using whatever sim of choice you have, and be able to navigate and do it pretty quick. That's what I mean. So if I said, hey, give me a table, you should be able to do that. If I say, hey, give me a count of something, you can do that. If I say, hey, I want to see all the child processes for this one particular process, can you do that? So that's what I mean. Like, you should be going beyond, because all they're doing is in THM for the most part is they're just kind of baby stepping you through stuff to get familiar. But you have to go beyond being familiar to be able to be actionable with your tool, right? It's like, okay, I have a hammer in my hands. You know, I know that one side is pretty flat and I'm supposed to hit something with it. And then on the back side, it's curved and I can pull out nails with it. Great, you're familiar with it, but have you used it? Can you hammer in a nail with 2 hits or even 1 hit? You know, things like that, right? We just want to be able to use it well enough. Let's see another question we have here. Mike is referring to the limitations of the lab itself. Like, you're going to learn much better if you feed your own data. Yeah, and it's kind of easy to generate your own data now with AI. Like, hey, here's a model of, or here's an attack chain from this new attack, right? Say that new, who is it, OpenAI, that new hack where they targeted Hugging Face. Can you create this in the logs for me? And then you create those, drop them in there, and then just play with the data. And then also in the community, we're going to be doing CTFs. We're going to be shipping out data. In the Zero to SOC Analyst course, we're giving you logs. Feel free to use whatever sim you want. But yeah, you want to be able to just play with it and do stuff with it. If you feel like you can do enough in THM, by all means. What I don't want to encourage you to do is feel like you have to bring in logs from all over your house, all over the place, and then maintain this behemoth thing. I think that's a big waste of time personally, and I'm gonna be flamed for it in the community because everyone tells everyone to do labs. Like, you should build your own lab, you should have your own SOC in your house. I don't think so. I think that's a waste of time. But to kind of do it more strategically, more targeted, yeah, totally, you should be doing that. Okay, cool. Let's do the next one. Keep the questions coming. We'll keep chugging along here. Let's look at min and max. Can you show me an example with min and max functions? Good questions, good interactions tonight. Y'all came ready to learn tonight. I freaking love it. Let's see. So here's another one. Let's try this one out. And then we'll see if we can explain it as well. So we'll keep this up there. We'll drop it in, and I don't. Okay, cool. So we have a couple of things going on here. Yeah, this is just Google AI. It does fantastic, and it's free. I use it on all the streams because I don't want to expose all the stuff I use AI for. You never know what's in it. It's really, really good for working on stuff. If you just needed to explain a function or whatever, fan-frickin-tastic. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing here. So we know these two parts. We've already seen this. This is where we're using stats again. And stats is being utilized to kind of group information for us. So again, we're creating a couple of new columns of information here. So first seen is the min. So that's what we're seeing here. So this is the min. So this is the lowest time, which makes sense, right? First seen being the min, makes sense. And then last seen is the max. So what's the last time? And then we're doing this by computer and by user. So I would expect that each computer would have multiple entries for separate users. So like, I bet if we sorted this, I thought you could sort it like that. Let's see. So here we go. So we have a couple of users for the same one. See how each one has a separate one? But that's just a pretty interesting one. I could definitely see where we would utilize this in an engagement, right? Or an investigation. I say engagements. I'm stuck in the pen tester mindset right now. Sorry. But an investigation, right? And groups data by blah, 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 blah. Looks at every log for Kira on that laptop. Every log for Kira on that laptop and extracts the oldest time. Looks at looks at those same logs and extracts the newest timestamp. So that's kind of fun, right? So each computer that Lucy has been on, we're getting information about the first and last time she was on there. And we can look at this and think, well, how else could we do this? So Kira G, Kira B, I imagine there wouldn't be two Kiras in the same org because that's a pretty unique name. They are organized though. It's kind of interesting. This must have just been kind of how he generated these things. I don't think they're in alphabetical order though. Oh, because we have these sorted. Unsort. There we go. All right, cool. There we go. All right, this is what I wanted, where we see the logins for each user, and we can go and look at the first and last time. Now, the other cool thing that we could do here is we could also time box it, right? So that's a fun word we use in investigations where we want to say, you know, we know this event started on, say, Monday. And in this case, we could say, we know it started at 5:05:53. And that's the only time we care about. Well, we could filter by that. We could set our time filter to that time frame. Then we could say, okay, now during this whole length of this event, where were all these users on different systems? Or if we even knew who the user was, we could add that to our filter up here as well. So like, for instance, where event ID equals 1, and we'll say user equals we probably need to add an and there. I don't know what it is. Is that it? There we go. And user equals bear with me, svc.scanner. Wonder if this, let's see, does it not like that? Does this need to be escaped? It does need to be escaped. All right, let's run this, make sure it works before I explain it like something that doesn't work. So I was expecting to see more than one log here, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why we only got one. Let me duplicate this. Here we go. What I was trying to do is I wanted to see all the logs for this user, service.scanner. So I want to see all the events for this user, and then I want to see all the systems that they're on. But we did not get that. So let's remove this and figure out why it jacked up, why it got jacked up. And we'll take a pause after this because we can talk about who the interns are going to be. Why don't we try this instead? So let's talk about why we had to escape this slash here. You're going to give me 3? And we got 2. Okay, perfect. All right, so a lot of cases, and this is the same if you're working in the command line or wherever, where you're going to have special characters. That's what they're called, special characters, not necessarily the ones for passwords, although there is some overlap there. The special characters can change the way the sim interprets what you're doing. Same with the command line, right? It changes because it's expecting something to happen. So the backslash is typically, oh, I burped. Sorry, I burped in everyone's ear. The backslash is an escape character, meaning treat this as just that thing. And it always takes place before. So if we took this out, it's saying typically treat this Z as just a Z. But it doesn't really need to be escaped. So it's kind of weird. So we escape the escape and say, we're looking for the literal backslash. And that's all. It's the same as if we did like a equals in here. It would probably mess things up. Actually, it didn't mess things up. That's interesting. But there's probably other funky characters in here, like maybe question mark, maybe exclamation. Sometimes like in Splunk, a period messes stuff up. It changes the way it like understands what you're doing. But yeah, so if your thing is erroring and it looks like there's a funky character in here, just escape it with a backslash and it should do what you're expecting. Okay, so hopefully we now got a good handle on min and max. We understand special characters as well. And then we also know how to group multiple filters together in this language. Okay. All right. Does anyone want to know who the new interns are going to be? So hopefully some folks aren't disappointed. We had about seven applicants this go around. And definitely, first of all, I want to appreciate everyone who put in their applications, right? And when we looked at these, so Sierra, AJ, thank you for helping out. And it was a tough decision. I think everyone, we really wanted to work with everyone, but we had to figure out who were the 2 people that we felt could really utilize this internship to get that leg up. We had a couple people that put in that already have jobs in cybersecurity. So we kind of ruled those out for this one because we wanted to help people who really needed that help. And if you already have a job in cybersecurity, internships not going to do much for you. But if you were in that pool, we definitely would like for you to keep helping out with the community. We just don't think the internship is going to move the needle for you. Now, we also had a couple of folks who haven't completed a entry-level SOC course or program yet. So you didn't have to have a certification, but we did want to see you complete that because the way we looked at it was, this is supposed to give you a leg up in the world. So if you are going to go job hunting and you have an internship under your belt, if you don't have all those skills, which are entry-level SOC analyst skills, it's not going to move the needle much for you. We'd rather you, and it'd be very difficult for you to add a lot of value if you don't have that under your belt yet, right? And so we took that into consideration as well. And then we had someone who decided to take a different pathway, totally cool. We definitely support you, and we made sure we lined up the appropriate resources for them as well. And then we had someone who is, I think, starting a new job. So it'd be very difficult to do an internship when you're just starting a new job. So all that being said, who did we say yes to? But I do want to put one more thing out, right? We're softening the blow a little bit. But if you weren't selected for this internship, if you haven't heard from me yet, if you weren't selected, I'll be reaching out to you still to make sure you're getting the resources you need. And if you're not quite ready for it, we're going to do this again. So spend your time studying and getting that thing knocked out, and then apply for the next one. We're here to help, and it's not going to stop us from helping you, right? All right, so the 2 winners are, please congratulate Leo. That's our number 1 winner. Very great application. I think he will do well in the program, and we're looking forward to seeing the work from Leo here. And the second intern, I don't know if Leo's here. The second person is, I don't know how to pronounce this correctly, Johan or Johan. But I don't think they're in here either. But those are 2 for this one. Again, if you weren't selected, I have like 2 N's at the end. So I'll put the names in here. Johan. Yeah, there you go. So those are our good ones. So we'll be reaching out. We'll be starting the internship at the beginning of the year. And what I want to do for the entire community, if there's something you think we're really lacking, congratulations, Psychopelt. If there's something you think we're seriously lacking, hopefully the interns are going to be there to help us fill in those gaps. The thing we want to see from this is an impact for us to do more good in the community. That's what we want to. That's what we want them to help with. So they're going to be helping the community at the same time. They're going to be helping themselves, right? They're going to be building up the skills they need to be successful in the job. They're going to be learning tools like how to do Git commits, how to work and collaborate on a coding project. It could be, how do you put together a threat intel package? There's a lot of really cool stuff we're going to be doing. But like I said, as a community, we'll work together to figure out what should be a priority, right? We can do everything, but we can't do everything at the same time. So we're going to have to do some prioritization there. But yeah, so super excited. Amazing stuff. The community has been amazing so far. And I can't wait to see future interns, what this set of interns do, and all of those things. Okay, so with that, again, big congrats. Let's do a resume review. And then we're going to go a little bit longer tonight. So if you can stay, please stay. If you can't, catch the recap. We'll finish up the list of functions that I put in Elastic there. Yep, make it count. Okay, cool. So let's get that resume up. Let's do some resume roasting. Cue the marshmallows and chocolate. All right, let's zoom in here, make sure everyone can see it. So a little bit of background on this resume, Osvaldo. I think it's a he. They will use a neutral one. They have been looking for a SOC analyst position for a couple of years. So they would like our help to figure out what types of things can they do to make themselves more attractive to hiring managers out there and get their resume, through the whole gauntlet that exists for all of us job seekers, right? So let's go into that with that mindset. They're looking at SOC roles. They're having trouble getting traction. How can we help them? All right, so first project. So they got a couple of projects up here at the top. Pretty cool. They got a Git repository as a portfolio. Very cool. Maybe we'll look at it in a second. So first lab is attack simulation and endpoint investigation. They got their tools there. They build an isolated SOC lab. They got some Kali, some Windows, some Splunk, some Sysmon going on, simulated interpreter, reverse TCP, analyze process creation, netpoint stuff, investigated malicious activity by correlating logs, documented the investigation with architecture, diagrams, detection workflows, evidence, etc. So it's kind of interesting. I think they could have done a little bit more with this one, but it is like one of those little ones that says, hey, I know how to do a little bit of Linux. I know how to do a little bit of Windows. I know how to do a little bit of simming, some Splunk. I made that word up, simming. And now you don't feel bad. Your resume is actually pretty crazy, Brian. So chill out over there. Put that imposter syndrome to the side. A little bit more we could do here, I think, to make it pop a little bit more. Talking about some more stuff like, did you just do one interpreter shell, or did you have an attack chain you were working? What exactly did you do here? Maybe even added a link, like which one of the items in his repo goes to this. I guess we'd have to balance how many links we want to put in here. Or at least in here put like the title of the project, or say, see this project and Git repo, something like that. Let's see what else we have here. Can everyone see the screen okay? Folks on mobile, can everyone see it okay? I'm gonna zoom in for people with I was gonna say hard of hearing, but hard of vision, bad vision. Okay, cool. Active Directory attack and detection investigations. Again, they got their tools up here. So we got some additional tools. Atomic Red Team. Someone in the community was talking about using Atomic Red Team recently on a project. We got some Hydra, so password cracking. Let's see what they did with it. Built an enterprise Active Directory lab to simulate authentication-based attacks, simulated brute force authentication attacks, and Atomic Red Team techniques. To generate events, cool. Investigated Windows security logs, Sysmon telemetry, and Splunk to identify IOCs, correlate authentication events, and validate detection coverage. Produce technical documentation. So the things I would say are cool about this would be he simulated authentication-based attacks with Atomic Red Team. So kind of showing his breadth, or showing their breadth of, I can use other tools, right? I can do interesting stuff. This line doesn't really mean much. What I would like to see support this line would be some notes, and I don't know if they exist, they may exist, in their portfolio. Like, so a project about this where they show what type of searches were they doing, what type of IOCs did they come up with, the troubleshooting evidence and all that kind of stuff, where they said produce documentation. I would like to see that documentation. A SOC Automation, detection, and response. Oh, interesting. So a lot more tools here. So we have Waza, the Hive, Shuffle. I haven't heard of Shuffle. VirusTotal, Lima Charlie. Lima Charlie is a new one. Sysmon, Windows 11, Ubuntu. So some of the cool things about stuff like this, if you have people like me who don't know all the things in the world, these are great talking points. I may say, hey, tell me what's Shuffle? I've never heard of that. Or what's Lima Charlie? I haven't played with that one. So those are good talking points. Built a SOC automation pipeline integrating Waza. Can anyone like put in chat, how do you say that? Is it Waza? Waza? Let's see if you can help me pronounce this. So stop sounding silly every live stream. Let's see. Developed custom Waza detection rules to identify Mimikatz credential dumping. Wooza. We got a Wooza, a Wa like Wario. Automated VirusTotal enrichment. I'd be curious, like this would be a good talking point for me where I'd say, hey, how did you do the VirusTotal enrichment? Because I think I thought you had to pay for the API. Maybe you can do so much under a certain amount. The Hive case creation and Shuffle notification. I would love to see this in their portfolio. Integrated Lima Charlie endpoint. Oh, this is an EDR. Lima Charlie is an EDR. Interesting. Troubleshoot the Hive, Elasticsearch, webhook, and SSL issues. Create implementation documentation. So repeated this line in here. This, I would say, is a much more advanced one, and I would hope they could talk about it because I would dig into this one if I was a hiring manager in an interview, and this would be kind of like a make it or break it question, where if you couldn't answer questions about this, I would feel like you just copied and pasted stuff and didn't really do a ton here. So this would be a very telling area to cover in an interview for sure, because this is a lot of complex stuff. This is a very, very complex one, or it could be. So this would be a fun one I would dive into. That would be a good signal to me as a hiring manager. Let's see. Kisha says he's played with Waza. Yeah, that is very specific, but it's pretty easy to do. So that wasn't necessarily something I would dig into. I might ask them, tell me about Mimikatz. What do you know about it? It has a very unique signature. There's a lot of detections out there for it. So it's this stuff, just the pipeline that was developed here is very, very complex. I don't know if anyone's tried something like this, but this is a very complex pipeline. So that's what would be interesting to me. Now, if they could figure this out, right, and then if they could figure this out and they built a lot of this stuff themselves, they would be a fantastic member of a team. Just simply because, when you're getting to the middle level in a SOC or kind of medium tier of any type of role, we expect you to be able to start kind of going out and finding problems to solve and solve them yourself, right? Start taking a lot of that responsibility on. Hey, I see some friction in our workflow. I'm going to go solve that for the team. That's what we expect out of more senior people. Like me as a lead, as a higher level pen tester, my job isn't just to do good pen tests. It's to mentor, develop new tools, develop new processes, improve stuff. So it's showing a lot of that. But where I was going with that, even at entry level, I remember my last role when I was the legitimate hiring manager, we had someone on the team, fantastic, was, hey, I had a lot of issues onboarding. I've kind of documented the things I did to work around the issues and who I spoke with and all that. So that was, hey, great. He's improving the process behind him. And then I think every other week he was getting up on our big team chats and going through talking about something he learned during his investigation. So he was really giving back, really solving problems, really trying to help. And those type of people, they make the workplace way better. They make your team better because it encourages other people to step up. So it's really good having people with that mindset in a work environment. I don't know if any of you are familiar with people like that in your environment where you're like, this person is always doing stuff. And you just want to talk to them because they're doing cool stuff. Osvaldo says, if it's possible, going into the GitHub will make things more clear. I show everything. If you have time, I even start with a graph. Yeah, we'll dive right in there, or a diagram. Yeah, we'll get in there. I'm just talking you up. I was talking you up, Osvaldo. All right, the last project here is Tynes. I haven't heard of that one. Lima Charlie, Windows 11, Slack, email, Vulture. Someone said engineer, cybersecurity engineer. Yeah, I mean, this shows a lot of really fun engineering to me. So a little bit past the, I would say past what you would expect out of a SOC analyst. And hopefully the portfolio shows the breadth of knowledge as a SOC analyst, right? Because an engineer is different than a SOC analyst, right? We wouldn't expect an engineer to be able to do an investigation, but we would expect a SOC analyst to do that. So if you're applying for a SOC analyst, we want to make sure that you for sure can do those types of things, or you have enough background to learn it very quickly. Okay, so design a SOAR workflow, very cool. A lot of people are implementing SOARs. Very cool. So they'll like to see that. Times for automated answer response. So playbooks, SOAR, very cool. That should be perking some ears up when they read your resume. Build an analyst approval workflow before endpoint isolation. Integrated Slack and email notifications. Yeah, that seems very engineering-like. Love it. Validated automated containment using lasagna, credential dumping simulations, and created incident response playbook documenting approvals. Yeah, I am very interested to dig into your portfolio. You have definitely caught my attention. If I was a hiring manager, I'd be like, okay, I want to talk to this person. Technicals, I guess I ruined the show because I didn't do a big reveal. I'm like, what would Mike say about this person? Anyways, let's continue. So technical skills, won't spend too much time here. Lots of really good stuff. Again, technical skills are really that keyword stuffing kind of thing, but people will skim these, but it's really good for AI, for your systems parsing resumes and whatnot. All right, so let's look at professional experience. We got zero cybersecurity stuff. So we got monitoring security systems, alarms, investigating alarms, coordinating emergency response procedures. And I imagine you put all those bullets there because you kind of are making them similar to SOC stuff, which is fair. I don't know that people would really compare the two, but whatever. You only have one there, so may as well put some stuff in there. If you had some other roles in here, feel free to add them as well. You don't have to have bullets for every role. For my resume, I only put bullets on things that are applicable to the job I'm applying for. So you could add stuff. Some people are very cognizant about work history. That's why I say that. If you just have one job and that's all you worked, it could be, it could raise some concerns that you've never had or you haven't had very many jobs. So they could be concerned about work ethic and stuff. Although I think your lab stuff up here is a pretty good explanation. But if you have other roles, I would put them in here. I just wouldn't put bullets on them if they weren't related. And it'll help fill in any of those concerns. Certifications and education, we got Security Plus, so one of the standard ones, and then Columbia Engineering Cybersecurity Bootcamp. So what's missing from certifications and education? I swear I haven't been drinking tonight. Like 4 sips. So he may be having difficulty because he does, or they don't have a proper degree, so an associate's or a bachelor's degree. That can hurt. Again, like old school classic organizations really, really are adamant about having a degree of some sort, mostly like 4 degree. And this is for like people who are in like the Fortune, whatever. they are pretty old school most of the time, especially for entry-level roles, so that could be hurting you. I can't say I might get blocked, but it has pretzels in it. It's my favorite beverage with pretzels. Yeah, okay, so overall, I think your resume is pretty solid. We'll jump into the Git repo in a second, but pretty good. I would certainly interview you just looking at this if I didn't have a it's good, look it up. Shocked up. Very hard to find. I bought a whole case of it a while back when my wife found it. It's the first time I had it in like 5 years. So good. But yeah, I would interview you if I didn't have a hard cap, like a hard requirement for a degree. Some places do. Unfortunately, you just can't get around that. But it's pretty good. If there's things I would do to strengthen this in terms of resume appeal, I would maybe look at completing a certification for the SOC. It sounds like you got a lot of the skills already. It acts as a good validator for you to put in there. You could pick one or pick a different sort of, you could even do, you got BTL1, KSJ says SAL1. Yeah, you even have Cyber Defenders have one, Hack the Box has one. Any of those would work. You could do that, or you could step. You may even be able to step and do like a pen testing course and throw it in here. Do a pen testing certification, like one of the junior ones. Any of those would help beef up. The problem, the chasm you're going to have to cross here is that you only have a Security Plus certification and you don't have a degree. So you really have to counter that with some good, really good third party something. So that's why I said a certification would probably help if you're not getting a degree. And getting out of networking will be a really good bet. And maybe even doing if you haven't, maybe you do, if you have a blog of some sort where you're doing research and releasing it and then putting it up on LinkedIn or whatnot, that could really help you. The problem is you're going to have to, because you're going to get auto-rejected by a lot of organizations, I would work the networking route as well pretty heavily. And it sounds like you're doing really cool stuff. I think people would love to legitimately read your blogs. Let's see if we can pull one up real quick. Oof, all these last ones. So Osvaldo Bieto. Pull that up here. GitHub. I'm gonna take your name here, Osvaldo Bieto. Did I say that right? All right, so let's check out. So we're getting it's 8:09. It's okay. We're just gonna hang out all night, folks. Osvaldo says, I'm working on SLA1, then SLA2, and then SC200. Okay, so SC200 I think is OffSex. Is that right? That sounds great. Yeah, I think if you get enough or add at least one certification, if you had two, you'd be really good. Yeah, you just really have to overcome the lack of a degree. Oh, that's Microsoft's. What is SLA then? What is SLA1? Oh, SAL1. Okay, just reverse. Okay. SAL1, SAL2. Yeah, those would be really good certifications. I bet it auto-corrected. These would be really good. Let's look at SC200. I would say I wouldn't do the SC200. I think that's redundant, personally. I think it would be a waste of money for you. I would do SAL1, SAL2. And if you really wanted to go above and beyond, I would pick kind of a very closely related specialty and do that. Yeah, Sal 1 could be too beginner. If you go, the great thing is all the materials there, as long as you have a Try Hackney subscription. So if you find the material, just a review, cruise through it really quick and then move on to Sal 2. And then just put your money in the Sal 2. That's going to speak volumes about you. And then I would look at doing something like a forensic course or a malware analysis course or a junior pen tester course, again, where you're beefing up and say, hey, I got all these basic skills and I got more. I'm just looking for a shot. And I think someone's going to give you a shot with that type of stuff. I mean, it's really hard not to. I will definitely be on the lookout for some positions. Throw me in chat, Osvaldo. Are you looking? I think I asked you this in chat, actually. You said you were willing to move, right? So if I see any entry-level SOC positions, I'll definitely throw them your way, throw them in the community and at you. So that we can try to get you a job. I would love to do a mock interview with you. I would love to do a mock interview with whoever else. I think Brian wanted to do one as well, but we could do a community event. So off of YouTube, and we could do some practice interviewing for folks. I think that would be very handy for you as well if you haven't gotten a lot of interviews under your belt. It'll help you feel a little bit more sturdy on your feet and feel more confident going into them. I've been told I'm a very tough interviewer. So if that helps you out, you'll feel more confident when there's a lot nicer people. I'm not mean as an interviewer. I just I do dig, I poke and prod. Because as a hiring manager, when I'm interviewing people, I want to know everything they know. So even if you miss stuff, I'll poke and prod in other directions because you may have other things that can compensate for that, and it will cover down on maybe areas that I have my team's weak on. So I like to understand what I'm investing in, what I'm buying, right? like I'm in a car place. What am I buying? So I really take the time to understand. Yes, I make people sweat, but it's a good sweat. You know, they're burning calories. All right, so let's check out some of these. I'm just going off on tangents today. Hopefully people are getting something interesting out of tonight. I don't know. It's going a little bit long, but hopefully it's interesting nonetheless. It could be. Could be a heated steering wheel here. So let's kind of take a peek real quick and just look through like how he's composing these. So demonstrates design, implementation, isolated SOC. No, which one did I want to see? I want to see this, God, this rolling mouse. Which one? Elasticsearch, this one here, the SOC automation detection and response. That is what I want to see. Let's see. SOC automation detection, this one. This is what I want to see. I want to see the cool one. They're all pretty solid, but the really, really cool one to me that I think is complex. So the environment was built using this, literally after generating malicious activity with Mimikatz automation pipeline, detected the attack, enriched the alert with threat intelligence, automatically created a case, notified the SOC analyst, requested analyst approval, and executed automated endpoint isolation. Very cool. Sorry if this thing's jumping all over the place. I don't know why. Oof. This is going to zoom in. Not very far. Let's see. Windows 11. This is the agent, SOC analyst. Here's the manager. There's shuffle. Send alerts to the Hive. So this was the ticketing system. Okay. Let's see. Enrichment. Enrichment should have been pretty easy. Skills learned, build a SOC automation, implement an automated SOC analyst email notifications. All right, let's see what your output is here. I got a little OpenClaw going on. Provision 2 servers, host the automation environment. With what? With the Hive and Elasticsearch, okay. lots of pictures here. I would say here's a tip for screenshots. I would do your screenshots where you zoom in and focus and then I like to do square red boxes around stuff I think is interesting or that I want to draw to the viewer's eyes. Just like consulting 101, right? You want to get rid of as much noise as possible. That would be some feedback I'd give you here is, zoom in on the thing you want us to care about. And then like, if there's like one specific thing, highlight it for us. Make it easy for me to understand what you're doing. Because these are like I have to click in each one to zoom. I would say, yeah, you're probably not going to have a hiring manager click each one of these potentially unless they're super, super interested. The Hive is pretty cool if you haven't heard of it. Pretty nifty. I have hiccups now. Let's see. Let's keep going. Okay. All right, let's see what the output is here. Configured, shuffle workflow node to extract SHA-256 file hash. That's kind of cool. Hive is not used a lot in the workforce. People like to pay for tools. I don't know if I think Hive is open source. I've seen it on a handful of occasions, not very often. Let's see. So this is how they're doing the playbooks, which is cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. All right, let's dive down to the bottom. And I would also maybe take out some of these screenshots and use them only to kind of punctuate your points. Again, you don't want to make your reader think a ton, especially if you're using it as a job portfolio. You want to make them like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. I want to bring it to your attention. Because chances are they're just going to do this. Let's see what else. What else is interesting here? So really, hone it in. And it really is an art form to build reports. I mean, that's kind of what this is, right? And get it so readers pay attention to it and follow along. You get better with it over time. I don't expect you to be amazing at it. So just giving you a little bit of feedback there. Most organizations will use real enterprise level tooling because minimizing downtime and having support really matters. 100% KSJ. Yes, I'm willing to participate in an interview. Thank you. Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right, so IOCs. Let's zoom out a little bit now. Where'd it go? It jumped up. All right, so process Mimikatz, detection rule. I will say you kind of let me down with the IOC. Mimikatz.exe is a very bad IOC. Very, very bad. Simply because you could just change the name of the file and now broke your IOC. You could have put the hash actually here. I know you said you extracted it, but put the hash here. If you want a good example of reports, Microsoft has really good reports out there that shows you kind of how they do their IOCs. There's a lot of groups. CrowdStrike does some really good ones. Look at kind of how they do their IOC tables, and I would emulate them there because you want to give information like this. This is clearly the whole point of an IOC is so that other groups of people can detect the thing that you investigated. So you got to make it easy to follow. Just looking at this IOC, I don't really have anything except the process name or the file name to detect on. So it's a really not so great IOC for me. And with any of this stuff, we really want to move it closer to work quality stuff, right? You're showing that you can produce work quality stuff. So that's what I would maneuver it over to. I would personally do more with your IOCs. There's more than just Mimikatz .exe. I would have invested a little bit more time here. And think about it again. How would I detect this on other systems, right? Because IOCs, typically it could be the file hash, it could be specific patterns in like the way it's being called, it could be the way it's generating network traffic. Mimikatz doesn't generate network traffic like that, but definitely the way it's being called are definitely things you could look at. The output, what's the output look like? It could be a specific pattern there, perhaps, but I would definitely look at the patterns there. Also, how did Mimikatz get downloaded onto the system? That would be a pattern in itself, file transfer method in some way. KSJ says EDRs have an IOC template you can use as a reference. Yeah, there's a lot of really good references out there. I would definitely, take some time cruising, looking at other people's research and be like, oh, I learned a lot from this. Use it as a reference. A lot of people do that. So we got some MITRE things. AJ would be like, I hate MITRE at this point if he was on the stream. But this is good to understand it. This is the common language everyone talks in. So they will ask you questions about what type of tactics does this fall under, what types of techniques. So it's good to be familiar with that. This automation workflow, that's really good to see here, to show exactly how you did this stuff in case someone just wanted to briefly look at it. Let's see, notifications, lessons learned. I want to see your lessons learned here. Project reinforce, blah, 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 develop custom detection rules, improved understanding. I don't really see any good lessons learned here. I think this is just a kind of vague summary. Don't be afraid to talk about your failures. Everyone fails in everything I do. There's something I won't do the same way again because it was a really bad way to do it. Don't be afraid to call that out. People expect you to do that on the job too. They expect you to be able to admit when something was wrong. So don't be afraid to do that here in the lessons learned. Let's see. How do you feel about cert for tools such as CrowdStrike, waste of time or bonus? I think they're a waste of time, Osvaldo. I don't like tool-specific certs simply because there's no guarantee you're going to land in a shop with that tool. I think you're better off understanding how to use it on a more broad scale. Like, how do you do an investigation? How does an EDR play into that investigation? Well, it allows you to pull files. It allows you to add detections. It allows you to do advanced search and pull all your telemetry in a single place, perhaps. Allows you to run scripts to help automate forensic tasks. Allows you to use the sandbox, send stuff to a sandbox. But I wouldn't focus on vendor certifications for anyone trying to break into cybersecurity. I think it's a very poor way to spend your time. I personally would invest in understanding processes better because the tools don't matter. The tools are changing next year. CrowdStrike's going to be out of favor. Something else is going to come in favor. But if you understand the technique, if you understand the processes, it really doesn't matter what the tool is. We can just use AI to tell us how to use the tool. We know what we're looking for. We're going to use our experience to guide AI telling us how to use it. It doesn't matter. Don't waste your time on the tools. Totally wouldn't do it. Yeah, feel free. Anyone else have any questions, feel free to drop them in here. Thank you, Osvaldo, for being brave enough to let us talk through your portfolio, talk through your resume. Hopefully we gave you some really good advice. If in the future you redo your resume or have a new project you're working on that you want to show off, drop it in the community. Happy to go back in there and look at it again. But yeah, pretty solid projects. Yeah, pretty solid. I think you could do a little bit better on the end of these. but the projects themselves are pretty cool. I'd like to see better output down here to really show your breadth of knowledge, to show the cool stuff that you've been doing and what you've learned about it. Brian says, thank you for bringing that up, Brian. We're doing a community live stream on the community member portfolios tomorrow if you like to hang. So Brian, who else is going to be in there, Brian? I don't remember. I won't be there because I had to change live stream nights because I have a friend's event I have to go to. Her last show, she's doing a, I forget what it's called, an improv show. So we're going to watch her do an improv show. Shout out. Cool. All right. So keep the questions coming. We'll pop back over to Ubuntu, back over to Elastic. KSJ will be there for emotional support tomorrow night. Fantastic. He's our emotional support animal. No, we appreciate you, KSJ. Definitely a big community person. All right. So coalesce. Oh, that's a good one. Let's learn how to do some coalescing. It sounds kind of weird when I say it that way. It's a function, I promise. It's a function. Now, this function, cool. All right, we're gonna burn through these other ones. We'll take our time. I'm kind of hanging out with y'all tonight, having my sippy sip. Good time. Hopefully I've been sounding pretty crisp. I don't have my headphones on, so I can't hear myself, but I'm trying to talk into the mic. All right, so eval process name, coalesce. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We keep doing event code ones. Hopefully y'all don't mind. So coalesce is a function in CrowdStrike as well, actually. I've had to use this to fix some funky stuff I had going on. So we have coalesce, image, original, file name, unknown process, and it's going to be under process name, allegedly. But we only see one, image, original, file name, unknown process. How does it do it in this? Let's see. Let's see, coalesce returns the first non-null value from a list of fields you provide. Okay, there you go. So this could be like a case where, say, we have a bunch of fields, like different logs, right? And we want to treat them kind of the same. Yes, I'll try to remember KSJ to link to it. So it could be like original file name could be in a different type of log, image is like the file, and then we have unknown process. So it'll go through each one of these fields and pull the first one, and then it's going to put it into process name for us. So definitely a good one if we're like we have inconsistent values in the fields or something like that. This could be a really good way to make sure we have something in there so we can do additional work on it. And so in this case, we're also doing a stats on execution count by computer and process name. So look right here where now we're kind of translating these. So we kind of combine these fields into one, and now we're using that one field to do additional work on. So that's kind of cool. So we got stats count by down here, and we can see a count here. So we could probably organize sort high to low. So right here we can see PowerShell was run 3 times over here. So that's kind of cool. Hopefully that one makes sense. Coalescing. So kind of merging values. It's only picking one though. So it's not merging like what you would expect where it's like blended. It's just picking the first value available out of all those fields. All right, let's move on to the next one, case. This will be a fun one. So this is, Python has a similar functionality to case. So let's do case now. AI is so easy. Let's see. So eval execution zone, blah, 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 user updated. So it basically allows it to select one of these, and then it stops processing after it hits one. Hopefully that makes sense, because it can only be one. So let's read it. So evaluates a series of conditions and returns a value as soon as a first true condition is met. Look at that, I got it right. So think of it as an if then else statement. And security monitoring case is incredibly useful for categorizing risk, tagging environments, or cleaning up messy paths. So let's try this. I don't know if this is going to work for us, but we'll give it a go. We may have the wrong values or something like that, but let's give it a try. Will we get anything back? Couldn't check your query. Couldn't read it. What's going on here? Let's see. Eval execution zone. Like that, like that, like that. So what didn't it like? Couldn't parse. Elastic, check your query and try again. Error line, invalid pattern for like. So, we can be lazy and just say, got an error. It's too late for me to be troubleshooting. It says use triple quotes. Again, escaping special characters. Let's see if that is the issue. I want these. Here we go. Is it going to work? It did work. How about that? So it did need triple quotes. Let's see. Thanks everyone for the feedback. Keep you nowhere condition. Don't need a where here. It's where image like. So triple quotes here. It is basically probably encapsulating where there's a special character. So I bet this star was jacking stuff up. I bet if we did, see that? It's jacking it up. What if we did another escape here? Oh, it just really doesn't like that. Interesting. So stars are really super funky. Might have been the double quotes though. See if this works. So it doesn't like that. Can we give it another one of these? Then it breaks all these. Interesting. So I guess we did need double quotes. Interesting, or triple quotes rather. So let's ask it what triple quotes do in here. Let's see. Supports triple quoting string literals. When you wrap your pattern in 3 sets of double quotes, it turns off standard string escaping and handles Windows paths much more cleanly. However, like still requires an extra escape layer for its own internal engine, meaning you need a double backslash. So it's escaping stuff, but you still need a double backslash for like. So very interesting. A lot of funky stuff there. And I don't expect you to learn all the different special characters overnight and all the funky stuff. You'll learn it over time. And this is where, like, if you're playing with this in your own lab or doing a lot of iterations with your sim, you're going to learn these funky nuances. And when you get into your job, you're going to be like a pro. You're going to be even if it's a different sim, you're going to be up to speed in like no time, like a month. You're going to be killing it. And they're going to be like, who is this person? Because this, again, every sim has the same problem. Every command line terminal has the same problem where you have to escape special characters. It is what it is. It's a super, super funky thing. This type of problem actually gets in the way of payloads when you're pen testing. You have to understand how each layer that it goes through, how it's being interpreted. So like if I have a web application payload for like, say, command execution, I have to make sure it's encoded so that it's ran on the web server properly. And then once it's decoded, I have to make sure the command is escaped so that it's interpreted by the command line properly. Otherwise, it'll break. So you're like hitting it all these different layers and making sure it's escaped so it runs as intended when it gets to where you intend for it to get. So you're never going to get away from special characters and understanding how to escape stuff. It's always going to be a problem. So fun. That's a very cool problem here. So long-winded answer. Let's go back. There we go. So let's check out what we have here. So basically, this is going through the list up here. And let's scrunch this up so we can see more of this. So go away. There you go. So this app was over in standard in that program files path, so it's considered a standard app. This is other location zone because it didn't match any of the other ones. So this is kind of like a failsafe. If it makes it all the way through this case stack, this will be the answer. This will be what shows up in here. That's kind of how, like, fall through, like default. If it doesn't match, this is what it's going to be. That's how that works. Same with programming too. So pretty cool. This is a good use case. I'm trying to think of some other ways I would use a case match for this. I really can't. Let's see. I'm trying to think of good use cases for it. What are good use cases for case? I actually used it in a Splunk or a CrowdStrike detection a couple of months ago, and I'm trying to remember what I used it for. It might have been like when I was creating a detection for AI usage in an organization. They wanted to know who was using AI and what types of AI. And so I was using it for something with that. Oh, that's kind of cool. Integrity level. So you could use it to translate some of the stuff that we see. So in some cases, like AJ's logs, they didn't have a description for the log. So it just says sysmon1, but we know it's a process creation log. So you could use case to assign a label to that, process creation, blah, blah, blah. That would be a case here. Yeah, you could normalize port numbers. We all know that port numbers don't necessarily match up exactly. They could be anything, but this is an interesting use case as well. Yeah. Oh, here's the systemic use case, exactly what I was talking about right here. Oh, this is a good one. Normal business hours, evening after hours. So lots of fun stuff you can use case for. So pretty cool. All right, what's the next one we got in our hopper here? Buckets. Let's use buckets. Isn't that the name of Charlie? Isn't that Charlie's last name from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Bucket. All right, how about bucket usage, AI? This, you know, and I told you, using AI is your friend. People are very weird about using AI, feeling like it's going to take their job. It's going to save you a ton of time. Your job is very much needed. You just need to be faster at it. And AI helps you with that. This is like an old school 2-hour live stream like we used to do. Okay. So buckets. Bucket function is used to group continuous numerical data or timestamps into fixed intervals. So this could be good if you were trying to like literally use buckets of time and say if it falls into this bucket or this bucket or this bucket or this bucket. Use timestamps from your log. So this is one where you're using timestamps of 1 hour buckets. And this one is using anomalies. So you could do something like if it's in this bucket and this bucket, like if you had overlap maybe. Attackers often use massive, heavily obfuscated PowerShell command scripts to download malware. Legitimate users typically run short commands. You can measure the character length of command line field and bucket into spot outliers. That's a pretty interesting one. So bucket is the command length of 100. Let's see, 0 commands between 100 and 199 characters go into bucket 100. And if you see a bucket for 2,000, a process running a massively long command that warrants immediate investigation. That's kind of a cool one. Let's run this and see what happens. Let's see what other examples we have here. Catching data exfiltration, bucket byte sent. So we could bucket all of these. You could also use a where. You could say where bytes sent are between so and so. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know when I would use bucket over a where. Let's ask it. Why would you use bucket instead of where? When you want to look at the whole picture simultaneously, I don't know, man. I can't even talk today. Sheesh. Help me pronounce that one. Think of where as a knife that slices away data you don't want, while bucket is sorting tray that organizes all your data into neat piles. Interesting. Okay. And I will tell you a lot of these funky ones, like this one you may not use as a SOC analyst, but as a detection engineer, I could definitely see where you may want to use buckets for stuff. And I know my detection engineer friends have used this quite often. So just depends on the usage. Eval does not support function buckets. So, are you starting to hallucinate? Got error. Eval does not support bucket for this query. Did it get it? Yep. Bucket is aggregation function, not a scalar function. Let's do this. I only wanted a piece of it. Here we go. That works. So let's see what we get out of this. Execution count, bucket of 0. So I want to see this explained. Let's see what it does. To group by fixed increments, provide the field, the bucket size, and the start and end ranges. So provide the field, so command length. And then the start and end ranges. Oh, so bucket sizes of 100 and then 0 to 5,000. So basically buckets of 100. So that's kind of interesting. Very cool. Yeah, feeding a sample. Yeah, it could be like that. That's for sure. So there we go. There is bucket for you. That's a pretty interesting one. And something to think about as well, if you're used to any type of command line syntax or PowerShell, these functions typically have multiple ways you can utilize them. So different patterns that you can have with arguments. And again, you would just like check with the documentation or with AI if you want, with how you would utilize it. So give me all the variations of the bucket function usage. We'll see what it says. That was kind of lame. But so syntax is field interval size. And then this one is date fixed size. So it's showing you like different ways you can actually utilize it. So see how the arguments change depending on your, like what you're trying to do with it. And this is most functions anywhere, most command line utilities. Again, they have different ways you can utilize them. And it's just this is how they develop the tool. I forget the fancy programming term for this. Overriding. What's it called? Is it something overriding or something like that? Is the term. But Yeah, so you can use it a whole bunch of different ways. So as you get more familiar with the tool, your capabilities kind of expand pretty significantly. So yeah, CIDR match. Ooh, yeah, let's use this one. Two more, folks. Hang in there. We're getting through the day. All right. Example. How about CIDR match? So we're not CIDR match. So this is kind of cool. We can provide it CIDRs. Destination IP is in somewhere where the destination IP is not in here. So this could be like if we only care about data exfil, right? We'd only care about it, the destination being outside of our private IP space. So that would be what we're seeing here. Or like if we know a specific range for our organization, like external, even our public IPs, we could do something like that. Or if we had, I mean, pretty much anything you can think of, specific ranges to like a cloud provider or something like that you want to exclude, you could do that as well. This one, they have them labeling zones. So this is kind of cool. So this is actually using case with CIDR. So that's kind of fun, right? Look at this. They're labeling it as guest Wi-Fi. So sometimes like these labels like this make it just easier for your analyst to read. So sometimes you'll see detection engineers rename a column or a field specifically for analysts. So it makes more sense just because maybe the ingestion made it look a little funky. So they wanted to streamline it a little bit. Cool. I don't think I need to demonstrate this. I don't know if I have enough networking logs for this one anyway. So we'll skip on doing this one, but it should make sense, right? CIDR match, it makes it easier that there's a function that does CIDR so that you don't have to manually code some funky regex to make it figure out CIDR. So that's kind of cool. They did it for you. And that's a really, really good, handy one to have. I forgot what SIM I was doing something in, and it was driving me nuts because I had to like create something that could handle CIDR notation. All right, how about this one? I don't know what these are. MV count. I'm reading move, but it's multi-value. Arrays of data stored inside a single log field. So these are essentially when dealing with fields that natively contain lists of data, such as a list of open ports, file hashes, or output of values. Let's see, it checks the user groups array for every user log, contains how many groups they belong to and flags. I don't know that we have any fields that we have concatenated. Let's see, is there a way to search my data for logs with arrays in them so that I can construct a query with this function? We could probably create some arrays, but I'd rather search to see if we have any. See, scan it actively. If you aren't sure which fields contain array lists, you can run this text query against common threat hunting arrays. We don't have those, bro. Didn't really help. We can take a gander and see if maybe we see something with those fields. But I'm sure there's a field with arrays in it somewhere. It could be. Archie, the baby, is tired. He was at doggy daycare all day. He is sleeping. And my dog he's sad. He didn't have someone to play with when Archie came home. My old dog. I think we only had one. I think we only had one because the hash field would be a good field, but AJ's data set only has one hash value, so there's not an array there. Let's see. This is where I like whispering, so I don't have to type all the time. Is there a way just to search for logs with arrays by itself so I can identify the field and event ID? Let's see. So these are called like data types. So if you're not familiar with data types are the type of data that belongs in that field. So an array would be, it said list, but arrays aren't necessarily lists, but we'll say they are right now. But an array holds multiple objects. So you could say, we have an array of dogs in my house, right? So we have Archie would be in there, and then comma, Jax. Those are my two dogs. So that is an array of dogs, where it would be an array of strings because each dog name is a string. So arrays could have numbers. So if we had like an array of their ages, you know, it would be like whatever 9 and 0.5. That would be an array of numbers. So it just depends. So the data type is very, very important because when we look at functions, they typically require the type of data. So like, for instance, if we were trying to do something as less, like try to use the function where we're saying less than, if we try to compare two strings, it would be pretty interesting how it interprets that. If we say, is Archie less than Jax? I don't know. If we're just comparing strings, is it going to do a count of the character values and then compare them? Or is it just going to fail because you can't compare strings like that? I don't know. It just depends on how it's designed. So you really have to be careful with your data types. Like you can't necessarily add strings together either. You can do Archie plus Jax and have it equal something. It won't work. So we do have to pay attention to our data types when we're doing stuff. Let's see. Let's see, forget about, it's really trying hard to do like a count, MV count. I just want to find arrays in my data set. And this is where you duke it out with Google AI. Got it. Let's completely drop and focus entirely on locating the arrays. Let's see where process. Man, it's screwing up. All right, so we'll skip that one. It is trying so hard. All right, to lower. So this is a really good one right here. So this is our last one, folks. So we'll be able to break right at 2 hours. So it says, it's amazing. I get so much done as much as I play. I don't know what they're doing. Let's see what the doggies are doing. They're laying down on the hay. That's a good thing. At least Archie's not trying to eat stuff, I guess. Okay, so let's use, this one should be pretty easy. It should just lower, all uppercase to lower. Okay, cool. So it should be able to lowercase everything. So this could come in handy where you're trying to compare stuff and it's hard to compare if the casing's different, and you'll see this sometimes where stuff will come out where it's camel cased or it's all lowercase or it's all capital case. things like that. And you really have to look at normalizing data. So this will be something where you're trying to normalize your data so that you can do stuff with it. So normalizing data is pretty common. When you're programming, you have to normalize data quite a bit. And when we're writing queries, we may want to normalize data. So it could even be where, maybe we want to compare the command line to the image. Well, we'd have to truncate everything before the last backslash to just get the file name, and then we can compare it to the image. Stuff like that. But yeah, you'd have to normalize data set. That was the point. You got to normalize data set somehow. So let's throw this one in and see if this works. I don't know if it will. Let's see if we get lucky again. Too many. Too much junk. There we go. Jeez, that was a weird hookup. And eval clean to lower command line. Let's do stats execution, clean command. Let's see where clean command, like is clean command used anywhere else? It is. Okay, so we should be able to do stats on that as well. Should be able to. I didn't like clean user. We can just count by one. Whatever. There we go. And we can see here it's all lowercase now. Not super magical. I know it's not super magical, but it is just a way to play with your data, another tool in your toolkit. We should be able to do a to upper. And there's actually quite a bit of twos in there. So we can run this now. We should see to upper. Look at that. We could even do, we could probably do both of them. Do 1, 2 lower, clean. We can call this one upper command. Upper command. Call this one lower. To lower. And then we can sort by, or count by upper. Lower. There we go. And now we should have 2 columns in here, each upper, one for upper, one for lower, and we can see the 2 different ones. I wonder if we have table in here anywhere. This is kind of doing table. Is table a command? Nope, it's not a command. Maybe it's like a stats or something like that. Okay, enough playing. We are at time. So we did get through all of these different ones. Hopefully you learned something. As an action item for myself, I will be putting together a cheat sheet of all the ones that we covered today. If I think of any more, I'll add to it. And then I'll even give an example of each one of them so that you can see how to use them. And then I'll also put when you would like use cases, like why would I need this function? So that I can help you identify like, all right, I want to do this with my data. What function? What did Mike say I could use here? This one, boom. Just to make it easier to identify what you want. So cool. Thank you everyone for joining. It has been an amazing stream as always. Congratulations to our 2 new interns. I will be reaching out. And then for the other folks who have applied, I will also be reaching out if I haven't already. You are all very cool, very awesome people. You're lucky to have a community like we do. Let's keep growing. Let's keep helping each other. Let's keep doing cool stuff. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Have a good night. Have fun on the community stream tomorrow night. And we'll see you. Happy hacking. Bye, everyone. All right, let's see if I can figure out how to turn the, there it is. There's the intro button. Bye, everyone.